Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Online Creators Association's Monday night live stream. I'm going to hit the button before I do this so that it doesn't do the thing with the faces. TikTok hasn't done anything particularly new since last Thursday. We got pretty caught up on the administrative infrastructural news about the app, and I don't want to talk about any of the big social and cultural news on the app. So what we're going to do today...
We're all tired.
Yeah.
Very tired.
What we're going to do tonight is pull up the Google News alerts about TikTok and just check them out, see what's going on. I've already clicked through some of them. Some of them are not as chill as I would like them to have been, but yeah. So first up, tell me more. Ohio University grad says goodbye 9 to 5, hello to TikTok. Do we want to check that one out?
I mean, we can. It's going to cause me to yell about how you shouldn't invest in TikTok as your only means of supporting yourself, and if you already have a 9 to 5, but sure.
Let's check it out. Going to Ohio University and finding a 9 to 5 job was exactly what Columbus native Becca Moore set out to do. A TikTok titan who gets clicks, 23-year-old Moore, who made headlines for befriending an Uber driver while stranded at the 2022 Coachella Music Festival, had it all lined up until social media caused her little problem, which quickly turned into big bucks. Oh, now I brag she's a social influencer, Keith Moore, Becca's father, said in the kitchen of his Gahanna home. After graduating from Ohio University, Moore had one goal in mind: earn a salary. She found a 9 to 5 job, but before she started, her soon-to-be boss called her and ordered her to take down her Instagram account. I was posing in bathing suits, and it was a bad look for the company, Moore said. She quickly jumped on the internet and scoured social media, and to Moore's surprise, she discovered that all the men working at the company had posted photos online wearing bathing suits. Upon her discovery, Moore said she quit the job before she even started and switched over to a new medium: TikTok. The first video she ever posted featured Moore ranking her various dates to fraternity parties. Became a hit. I rated them 12 out of 10 or 13 out of 10, and people were like, why is she rating them so high? Moore said. Despite the success of her first post, Moore said she needed money. So she, quote, tricked the Short North restaurant town hall into hiring her, she said. A bartender with no experience gave Moore plenty of time to post on social media. But shortly after starting the new gig, Town Hall General Manager Adam Heath said he had to fire the 23-year-old TikTok star after she failed to show up for her shift because she was in Nashville recording a podcast for Total Frat Move. We caught Becca visiting her folks, Heath said. Nashville's home for now. While Heath wasn't pleased with Moore's absence from work, he also pointed to questionable social media posts. Her brand attacks the double standard that made her quit that 9 to 5, Heath said, listing things men shouldn't be allowed to have, simple things like blankets or running water. Travel is constant for Moore, like her renowned trip to Coachella, where a friendly Uber driver helped her after she lost her phone, wallet, and keys at the California Music Festival. To repay her Uber driver, whose daughter Myra was diagnosed with cancer, Moore reached out to her 900,000 TikTok followers to help with the girl's treatment. So far, she's raised about $250,000 to help the Uber driver's daughter. About 90% of Moore's followers are women and advertisers who pay for her to wear and model. About 90% of Moore's followers are women and advertisers who pay for her to wear and model their brand's clothes, makeup, and products, she said. Even Amazon Prime wants her to review their content. That's just bad writing.
No, I think it is written the way they mean it.
That,
yeah,
90% of her audience is cumulatively women and brands.
Yes. Which is not uncommon for influencers.
It is not that's just say 89% of your audience is women. There aren't enough brands for them to be a significant part of that 90%.
Listen, I know that, and you know that. Who wrote this article?
I mean,
oh my God, this is an NBC article?
Brad
It's
Johansson.
local, but it's a... Jesus Christ. They need to hire an editor because, like, I'm available. No, I'm not.
Putting on makeup in one of her videos, Moore said it's worth about $10,000. Displaying a company's product, another $10,000, she said. My low months, I'm making $10K, she said. This month, it's like $50K. While it's not the 9-to-5 she expected, Moore is earning the big bucks at her social media influencing job, and everything is content, she said. As long as people care about my life, I'll have a job, she said. If not, I'll go work at a tiki bar somewhere.
You can suggest a correction that they fix that percentage.
I would rather just like cosplay of corporal humanization as introduced by Community.
I just...
Wrong going, eat fresh to fucking everybody. But
listen, I'm
like,
one of those,
wear these clothes.
like, dickhead people who... I have nothing against influencers, like, generally. But there is often, like, this perceived arrogance that comes with it. I don't know how else to describe it. That, like, infuriates me. Because it's almost always, like, specifically white women and influencers that react that way.
Yeah, like, I don't know a whole lot about this girl. I have no idea. Like, I don't want to say she's a shitty person. She did just, like, fully not show up to shifts because she had podcast appointments rather than...
I don't know, tell your
boss she wasn't going to make it to the shift.
Like, that's the shit that I'm talking about, though. It's the whole, like, I was going to do this thing that falls within the parameters of what most people consider a normal job. I decided to throw that out the window to do this thing because it was lucrative for me and it happened to land in my lap. I get it.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think that, like, your boss saying that you have to get rid of your bathing suit photos and then finding out that it is explicitly because you are a woman, pretty good reason to throw out that job.
Yeah, no, that I have no issue with. That part I don't take any issue with. But, like, the whole, like, I'm just going to be an influencer now and that's my shtick. Like, yeah, at the expense of the other job that you grabbed.
Yeah.
You couldn't do both. You couldn't be responsible for both.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the first job was just shitty people and shitty management. I would have left it too. But, like,
I'm going to be honest. I think that, like, given her position, like, not having a second job and focusing on the influencer shit is the right call.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it takes 2 seconds to just be like, oh, by the way, bye.
I think I'm also just, like, a little bit bitter because that's, like, not a thing I will ever be involved in. Like, I can look at that and just be like, bad taste in my mouth, but that's my problem, not theirs.
Yeah, and, like, I think the thing that we want to focus on, like, because, you know, we represent content creators. That's our whole deal. And some of those content creators are influencers. And influencers are welcome in Toka, and we support them, and we want to help them get their bag.
We have plenty of resource humans dedicated specifically to helping out the influencer crowd.
Mm-hmm. It's honestly the main thing we can help with because they're the ones who get brand deals, and that's one of the few things that we can, like, give coherent advice on because it's straightforwardly how do you figure out how much money to ask for, not what is psychologically healthy about being a content creator.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I would like to, like, clarify. I don't actually have an issue with people who are influencers. Like, that is fine, and I think that's totally valid. And quite frankly, I think all of you are being paid way too little for what you're actually offering these brands. As a general rule, like, you should be asking for more money.
I feel like $10,000 for holding up a tube of makeup is fair.
Well, yeah. I mean, on the whole, people aren't being offered that, though. Yeah. You and I both know a lot of people are getting offered, but it's great exposure. What if we gave you, like, $100 for your 1.2 million followers?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. Yeah. Generally, it's more. I just have an issue with, like, the way capitalism operates in society.
It's a lot. I could not believe when some of like the beauty gurus, for example, especially on YouTube, like back before all of this, like they were show like how much product they get sent like on the regular, and I was just like, holy cow. I
mean,
would feel overwhelmed with just one box of something random being sent to me in a month, but they've got like maybe a package a day sometimes. I'm just kind of like, holy shit.
that's real cute. Michaela used to get like 12 to 15 packages a day.
Yeah.
Even now, probably, which is why
Yes.
she does the huge.
Yeah.
But
I'm still like, I still cannot figure out which I like better from Michaela's content, when she's unboxing the shit that just keeps getting sent to her, or when she's like, okay, it's a month, it's time for monthly purge. Let's go through it and be like, okay, I didn't use this, I didn't use this, I didn't use this, like donate, and you know, and all of that. I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. I love watching it.
I think it's more a matter of like the way that influencer culture operates. I sometimes have an issue with, because like you want to do influencing clothes, whatever, fine, makeup, whatever, fine. But you have influencers that specialize in like health products, and it's all like spicy diet pills, and that's where my brain fully like short circuits, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Diet culture, all of that, like that has just become one of the craziest, most toxic. I only follow people who call them out at this point, like, and give just like, you know, advice. But anyway.
The next article on our list is, what does caw mean on TikTok? I've read this one already. It's not as fun as I hoped it was going to be. I thought it was about a bird noise.
Well, the bird noise is CAW.
Videos about caw comments have been filling TikTok for the past couple days and have left many people confused. So what exactly does it mean? This is not the first time TikTok's comment section has been filled with a particular phrase or word. Prior to this, crop and story time were the ones that had filled the area. Now, just a couple months later, after people grew tired of this, a new phrase is taking over the platform. Caw means kill all women on TikTok. This term became popular when people came across the same on Urban Dictionary. It also appears to be a response to the cam trend that had taken over the platform in 2021. Cam stands for kill all men. As per Distractify, in 2021, the cam trend started as a joke or parody of, quote, super feminist beliefs. At the same time, another thing that made it popular was the kill all men audio that had been receiving a lot of attention. Things seem a bit different with the caw trend. Unlike the cam trend, where people made several videos and filled the comment section with the same, some users noticed that TikTok immediately bans the person who has commented on the platform by writing caw. However, there are a few who seem to have no problem doing so. At the moment, it's unclear why that happens. Nonetheless, if you also search for caw on the TikTok search bar, you will be warned immediately. The message reads, this phrase may be associated with hateful behavior. TikTok is committed to keeping our community safe and working to prevent the spread of hate. And instructions on how to filter and report comments on TikTok.
I appreciate that they actually like saw a thing, realized it was a problem, and took action.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The lack of cultural nuance around violence as it affects women and femme-presenting people makes me it does my head in.
Mm-hmm.
It does my head in. The general lack of understanding of power structures and how they operate, and how some things can be said and don't have any real direct effect on those power structures, and other things are reflective of those fucking power structures.
Mm-hmm.
This like, so first of all, I have mixed feelings about, like, this is the first that I've heard about it. Like, I'm happy that it's the first that I've heard about it because it means that they did nip it in the bud. But I'm also upset that this is the first time that I've heard about it because that means that like nobody, like none, that whole circle like did not come onto like my radar prior to this, which shouldn't sound like a problem, but
But you're
it's
generally
not.
pretty good at being plugged into the
Yeah, there's
going on in the app.
but there's that, and then there's also other problematic trends and stuff that have come across my radar that like I as an individual should be pretty far removed of, and they're not doing anything on those things. What the fuck? That so because like again, my brain is always thinking about that. It's not just the action to be noteworthy, but the inaction on the flip side of that too, because there's so many.
It's interesting to me because if they can recognize that KAW
Mhm,
is problematic
mhm.
and do something about it,
Yeah.
that means that they have deliberately chosen inaction for similar issues that are highly prevalent.
Mhm.
The fact that the 6MWE is allowed to circulate freely, the fact that like there's just a whole bunch of them that are easy to look up and have been
Yeah.
around forever and are
Yes.
highly problematic, and TikTok has just apparently deliberately chosen which ones it wants to engage with.
Yep. That's 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 what really gets me is like as a moderation and admin staff, like what it just seems so random with what they choose to take action on versus not take action on. So it's like it almost kind of makes me wonder, like behind the scenes, is there maybe like a like was somebody threatening a lawsuit about this particular thing or something? Like,
I'm going to be honest. I think it's just whoever's responsible for this happened to have the free 15 minutes to set up the thing when somebody brought it to their attention for the first time. And that is not always the case when they hear about various other. Like, I don't think that it's like, I don't think they've got a list and they're like deciding these ones are not worthy of concern. I think it's that the process for getting it, for getting something monitored is significantly shoddier than it should be.
So I
it's one of those.
would definitely agree with a lot of that statement, but the fact of the matter is that there are certain things that have been circulating on the app since I have been on the app, and I've been on it musically.
Yeah, a lot of the bigotry stuff. Like,
regardless of the fact that they are consistently brought up as an issue, consistently brought to TikTok's attention as an issue, have been shown to be dangerous and to be the root of a lot of like actual acts of violence.
mhm,
And that's where I get frustrated.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep talking about the like mechanics of corporations and like why this can happen in a way that is not malice. I also don't want to come across like I'm saying you shouldn't be frustrated, because you are absolutely right to be angry.
I know that. I think for me, it's more a matter of if you have a phrase that shows up, right? And that it probably just hit the right person at the right time. But you have another phrase that's been circulating and been brought up over a course of 6 years. You would think at some point in that 6-year period, it would be the right person at the right time. It seems highly unlikely.
I mean,
Yeah.
Like that's what I look at it, and I'm like, there's a either we're going with there's a cultural misunderstanding where regardless of how many times this thing gets brought up, the people who are in charge of that particular piece of whatever truly do not understand how it affects individuals and how it operates, or there is gross negligence happening.
I mean, what I think is more likely is that there is no internal structural pathway that leads to the people receiving complaints about ongoing problems talking to the people who are capable of setting up like systemic filters. So like if let's say in the
So
past
if
year,
you have
TikTok
shitty
has,
project managers, you can't say, by the way, well, we're adding this one thing. Let's poll everybody for any additional words, because it's like that's the way it should be.
Well, I think
That's the
for
part.
me, it's not even that. Like, I'm not even talking in terms of setting up a filter, right? I'm talking in terms of, okay, this thing got caught. They did make a filter for it. Good for them. They're approaching it the way they should approach it. They can't even be bothered on the basic level to have this on whatever list they use to go, oh yeah, no, that's a comment we should remove. Or, oh yeah, that's a thing that should be, cause for a ban when it's sent to review multiple times. When I know for a fact that over 300 people have sent the same video and every single one of them comes back not a violation, despite clearly violating whatever it is. Like,
right, that's over 300 people sending that video to be reviewed by a content moderator who is reviewing 3 videos simultaneously at a company that is not TikTok.
And I get that. But again, my point is, if the same thing is happening thousands of times a day, a week, a month, whatever, over a period of 6+ years for the exact same 4 letters, it's a little weird that hasn't been caught somewhere.
I would really like you to let me finish explaining the thing that I started saying a couple times. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that in the last year, TikTok has developed internal structures that are sufficiently competent to deal with emerging problems, like emerging language problems. And the person who is responsible for that, when they set it up, they assume baseline where the app is right now is what not crisis looks like. So bring it to my attention when there is a new thing that is crisis. The stuff that has been a problem for 6 years is never going to make it onto that this is a new crisis list. So it is it's not like it's getting brought to that person's attention twice a week. It's never going to get to their attention. And that is a problem, but it's it's a structural problem.
Mm-hmm. That you and I think are saying the same thing. We're just getting there different ways.
Yeah. And the other part that I was saying to add on that, because we are all having the same conversation in a different typeface, but
coming at the directions.
From my own project management experience doing exactly this, there was the dear God critical list. This has to happen yesterday. And then the nice to have as soon as possible, but as soon as possible can be anytime between now and eternity. And then it's very bottom of the list, everything is done. We are so bored to tears that we have nothing left to do but address everything.
I'm gonna be honest, I think Paul getting on the list is because it was a new enough and interesting enough thing to be going viral that it was water cooler talk among the people, among the group of people, one of whom has that ability to just put something on that list. And so that dude was just heard people talking about it and went and added it to the list because it was topical, because it was news.
I mean, the reality of the situation is we don't actually know. We don't actually know how they came to that conclusion or what the setup was for it. Mm-hmm. My general frustration with this is directly tied to what you were talking about, is the fact that you have had these systemic issues for 6+ years. You've had systemic issues. And because they're systemic, you've decided they're not issues.
Yeah.
This is where I'm getting viscerally frustrated. Because as a company, as a media company in general, there should be some form of personal responsibility on the company to do better by its users. There should be. There isn't, but there should be.
Absolutely, I agree with you 1,000%. One of the things we've been saying a lot about TikTok lately is that they seem to be getting their shit together. And they are handling a lot of new things better.
Mhm.
What that suggests is that they have got competent people in roles that are like forward-facing, future decision-making roles. It does not, at this point, it does not seem like they also have a team of similar competence whose responsibility is cleaning up after the messes left by like 7 years of incompetence.
Yeah, retroactive.
And like it's the same thing as like the technical debt problem that we've talked about a few times. Like companies don't like investing in cleaning up after the messes that have accumulated over the time they've been running, because if it's still safe to ignore them, then putting those resources into something new drives profit.
Mhm. I think what's interesting to me is that, at least in my opinion, there is a reasonably simple solution for the issues that at least I'm talking about, in terms of like finding, hateful, dangerous, violent, bigoted, whatever. And it truly is as simple as having a small committee of people from primarily marginalized communities that meets once a month to discuss what needs to go on the list of terms that don't fly. Like, it's quite literally that easy. And you update it every 2 weeks or every month.
And it should also be easy for them too. Like if they have any concerns, like is this too broad or whatever, they could just run like a test run of it just to gather data, not even necessarily take actions, but to see like
and
how
that
much
might be why it only gets moderated sometimes when you comment caw.
But like that's kind of where I look at it, and I'm like, this seems like such a simple solution that doesn't actually necessarily need a whole lot of infrastructure built into it.
Mm-hmm.
When you literally just use the people to help you navigate it.
And to that point too, it's that other part that we know that on the back end somewhere, somehow there is some sort of weird bias, like kind of programmed into stuff, like how so often, especially femme presenting people, if you even think about saying the word OnlyFans on the site, like your video is toast. But that one dude that just went viral recently by very violently throwing a bag of cash at his sister to pay off her college debt or whatever, that was completely fine. And that other dude who showed up yet again, completely freaking naked, except for just barely holding a towel over. That's fine.
TikTok chat, by the way.
Pardon?
Light says hi from TikTok chat.
Oh, hello.
I
heard a light, like light bulb. A light says hello from from TikTok chat, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like
so something else I want to talk about here, and this is a little bit. Forgive me if this sounds tinfoil.
Bring it on. I'm ready.
Corporations do not have the same sensory apparatuses as humans. What I mean by that is, like, we often think of like corporations systemically as like perceived, like the perception of the corporation is one-to-one analogous with the perception of the humans that comprise that corporation. But that's not true, because like when you like look at a like complex system, perception like relies not just on the sensory organ, but also like carrying signals to the relevant processing locations. And from that perspective, like TikTok as an institution cannot read and parse language on the app. TikTok as an institution can't watch TikToks. Blythe says just because it's made of humans doesn't mean it's human, which was one of the phrases from my Div 3. I have posters.
Right. So what you're saying is fully correct. But there are cultural.
Do you mind if I go on a little bit longer? Because I'm gonna agree with you. So one of the things that like the go-to example I often use for this is most large institutions don't have the ability to perceive graffiti in a like comprehending way. Like if you spray paint "fuck Walgreens" on the side of a Walgreens, the manager of that Walgreens is going to file a report saying like I had to spend some money on like fixing some vandalism, and then like corporate does not perceive the text of that spray paint. The only institution that I am aware of that can perceive graffiti is the American library system, like the interlibrary network in the United States, because when some librarians started to notice like an uptick in white supremacist graffiti, they adapted the system for reporting damaged books to report damage to their property in ways that like specify the details about like the nature of that damage. So like the American library system has stats on like the rate of occurrence of white supremacist graffiti over time, because they can perceive that because they have a system built to perceive it.
Right.
And that is what TikTok needs. TikTok needs to be thinking about like how to build sensory apparatuses for perceiving hate on the app.
Right. So I think absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. More to the point is that I have never worked for a company that does not have built into its culture various social groups who do that kind of work on behalf of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So like groups that have like a women's whatever that focus on issues that affect specifically women within the company so that they can come to whoever has the power to affect change with numbers and statistics that they've collected.
Mm-hmm.
It is a non-difficult thing to institute. And in this particular case, TikTok would as a company, would benefit significantly from having groups dedicated to that work.
Mm-hmm.
Its decision not to do that, not really sure why. Like,
Exactly.
It's not an uncommon thing within large corporations.
I'm going to guess, and this is fully a guess, is that the vibe around the office is that starting an affinity group within TikTok is not good for your career.
That would also be my guess based on, just the data that we've collected.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, obviously one of the things that we are very interested in addressing is the corporate culture of TikTok, because we know that it's not great for workers, that they don't, they're not doing the basic things that they need to be doing to both keep their workers and their users safe, just on a company culture level.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me, the reason that it's so dumbfounding is because like, it would be one thing if this weren't a common business practice, right? If it weren't a common business practice to have like specified groups within your larger corporation. But at this point in time, it's a pretty normal thing,
especially what?
Especially in tech companies. Like this is one of the things I used to write about.
Yeah.
It's more common than it isn't, which is why TikTok not having something like that, or at least not having something like that in any perceivable way to the outside,
is worthy of attention.
And quite frankly, fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is like 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, right? Like, so I was working basically community management, mod admin stuff, right? These problems were literally brand new, like to the world, right? Like this shit didn't exist. There wasn't something in place. So the fact that I started an Excel spreadsheet. I started into an Excel spreadsheet so I could add words and then tell the spreadsheet to alphabetize it. And whenever I could get somebody's fucking attention to be like, hey, by the way, can we like do something about these things? By the way, yes, you're awesome for having added forum tagging. By the way, these words need to be not allowed to be tagged ever because they're white supremacist things, racism, and bigotry, all of it. And they were like, oh, we didn't think about that. It's because you didn't talk to me. Hi, I'm right here. You have to talk to me before you launch stuff anyway. So I would keep that spreadsheet and keep adding to it like every time we came across something else, because especially with these kinds of situations, there's always going to be a new word. And even though we know that there is always going to be a new word or acronym or what have you to be bring attention to and like have to deal with, there's almost always, like you said too, something else that already also could be addressed like at the same time. So here we are 15 to 20 years after other people have already been paving the way for this kind of stuff to both actively manage what is happening, try to stay ahead of the curve for what we know is going to be coming, because there's always something more. They can't tack on a little bit more of the retroactive stuff at the same time too. That's the part that I'm like, again, 20 years ago, I was asking for that and people were able to do that. So why are they in current day, 2022, like who the hell do they have on their staff to not have anybody to just be like, even if it's just a stupid Excel spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet could do the job and they don't do it. I don't get it.
I think a lot of this stuff feels like common sense from the outside, right? Because it's stuff that we get into and we're pissed about, or we recognize readily as users of the platform. From a corporate power structure, these are not things that realistically hurt the bottom line.
Exactly.
So they're so realistically, and I'm sure this is TX probably already hit on this, and I'm just repeating at this point. Like, you're not going to divert more resources to something that isn't realistically hurting your bottom line.
Yeah, and like in a short-term calculation, the population that leaves the app because it has been made hostile for people of their identity, and the population that would leave the app because it has been made hostile for people of their bigotry, there's no particularly good reason to assume those are of different sizes.
Right. Yeah.
And when serving one of those communities means doing things and serving the other means not doing things, in a short-term calculation, the more economical choice is to not do things.
Right. Which all brings it back to my earlier point of there should be ethical and moral, onus put upon these companies, but there isn't.
Yeah, when corporations were initially invented, they had to prove regularly to the state that they were doing something to serve their communities.
Yep.
Because that was like the price of justifying the legal rights of being able to treat your organization as though it is a person.
Wouldn't it be interesting if they if they brought back the TV rule that they used to have for shows, where if you aired in a certain primetime block, you had to have like 2 to 4 episodes a season that focused on like a social and moral dilemma that was built into your show? Wouldn't it be interesting if we had to do that for like social media and other media platforms?
They would. I know.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying if I had to sit through the episode Beer, I think they should be able to make people on YouTube and TikTok sit through something similar.
That just slammed a memory back into my brain of E-Bomb's world with the sensitivity training joke that they had.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at right now with trying to say, by the way, tech people in tech, like from the top down, like you have to get all of these levels like together.
Do we also think that potentially there is just a general decline in human empathy in tech spaces.
So, and again, so like, I love that idea. Like that actually is kind of a wrinkle in my brain, right? Like, but at the same time, again, even from my own personal experiences from, again, 15, 20 years ago, customer service does not bring in money on tech level, especially because it's like if people tried to charge for reports to be handled, which a lot of people continue to discuss all the time, to try to bring revenue in from the customer service side. Can you imagine? Like that would look awful.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody really wants to pay for like a subscription because, like, again, if you also had like a subscription based like service some other way to, like, you know, there's that too. You want as many users to join as possible. So if you have a subscription based service, unless it falls under these categories like TV and other stuff that has like lots of licensing, TV and music, all of that good stuff, like, you know, so for something like this that's supposed to be essentially a public forum, any kind of all of the monetization of it gets a little bit weird, which is also why going across that also is reminding me of a conversation happening again about the new subscription service that they just launched out too, with like how odd the pay scale is for that and everything too. Like,
yeah. No, I think the other thing that I find interesting from a monetary standpoint, right, is you have all of these potential brands who want to advertise on your platform, who are aware of the power of your platform, but you have a significant amount of content that would not be brand appropriate.
mm-hmm.
So is there not a financial impetus to handle these issues in the interest of brand retention?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my other question.
Kind of like YouTube's doing that a little bit. Yeah, they're trying to.
I don't know. I gotta be honest, I don't pay attention to the line.
Yeah, I mean, this is what the adpocalypse was, and TikTok is
Yeah.
working really hard to make sure that brands feel like their content is not going to be paired up with content that's going to be bad for their brand. The strategy that they are pursuing to do that is not make sure that that shitty content doesn't exist.
I just, to me, it's so strange that that's like, not even that shitty content doesn't exist, but like, you would think there would be more of an effort to handle white supremacist comments, to handle all of these things that could be commented on a brand video that could potentially damage a brand.
Right?
And they're not, apparently it's not being viewed as something that should be dealt with on a larger level. I'm sure they deal with it specific to those brand pages, because I'm sure there's probably actual eyes on those pages. But like, would not the easier and more complete answer to that be create a policy and fucking enact it?
I think that overtly white supremacist comments on major brand videos is unlikely to be a concern, because it's unlikely to be a strategy of the white supremacists. Because like, fucking over TikTok's ability to advertise does not serve them.
It can, but like, I'm thinking in terms of, okay, you have a Black-owned business that is advertising on TikTok, or that has a branded page on TikTok, or that is working with, pick any number of influencers with branded content through the ad system on TikTok. All of these avenues are open to white supremacists being assholes and doing what they do in ways that can damage a brand. Why is that not in TikTok's? Like, I don't understand why TikTok doesn't look at that and go, okay, this is a larger issue that can hurt our wallet.
Because the only brands that are vulnerable to that aren't a big enough deal to cause an adpocalypse.
And then I'm sure also like again like developers and other people who are like aren't on like the customer service side of things are like, well, we give them their own moderation tools. Why can't they just handle it themselves first too? Which again, the moderation tools that they give to users to use on an individual level, they are grossly underpowered. So
I mean, again, these are all just like hypothetically things in my brain that float
yeah.
around. Because like we do often say like there's no money in taking care of this issue and that's why they don't do it. But I'm sitting here going, that may not necessarily be true. Like knowing what we know of how TikTok operates and the fact that they do want more branded content and they do want to attract more advertisers, like Target isn't going to want to advertise against that kind of nonsense, especially when their main advertisement right now is their partnership with Tabitha Brown.
Yeah.
Right, but again, TikTok's working really hard to make sure that like
no, and I get that
content doesn't get paired with ads.
I get that. I get that. That's not really my argument. My argument is if we're talking about diverting resources to taking care of an issue, it takes more resources to take care of a single account than to just address the platform as a whole. And then you're not adding resources to every individual account that's going to need it.
I mean, when it comes to targeting white supremacists, then there is the follow-up resources that you have to invest in fighting the conservative media backlash.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of bad press. Which is not to say they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, the calculus on this is complicated, and I don't think that.
I think for me, it's more, I'm just wondering, is there anyone in the structure of TikTok who's thinking about it the way that my brain is thinking about it?
Mm-hmm.
Because
I love those answers too.
Well, no, because from an outside perspective,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it. And I realize that it's a very, limited view that we have into this company. But it truly doesn't feel like they're taking into account all of the ways in which this would be beneficial to them. And considering part of what we do is find ways to make the company realize that, like, hey, this thing that helps a lot of your people and a lot of your users is also beneficial to you. And here's how.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the answer to that is that they need to be thinking of it. They need to be thinking about it more than a quarter out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, dealing with systemic cultural problems on your app is a long-term investment, not a short-term cash grab.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because ultimately it is going to lead to financial problems. But like any given executive can reasonably predict that it won't lead to financial problems before they have a chance to leave the company.
Right. And I think that really truly is the crux of most of this, is the longevity piece.
Mm. So like, I think that would be the angle is, hey, TikTok, you're working really hard to position yourself as a social media platform that's going to last. You don't want to have a Nazi problem.
Right? Like, you don't want to be 8chan.
Yeah.
You don't want to be where these people are organizing because you're making it too easy right now.
Right. And like, I'm not going to say the usernames because I don't want to give these people any clout, but how many of these people are coming back with, blah, 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 number like 67 I've seen in one case?
The fact that TikTok has not implemented a like basic, hey, this IP address, no go.
Yeah.
The fact that Instagram has it where I can block any iteration of a username that comes from that, spawn point, whatever. I don't speak that kind of tech.
Yes.
And TikTok has just been like, fine. Use block to come, I guess.
I still inherently love the idea of being able to block a person by an IP address. But again, unfortunately, people can physically move. You can hop onto a different Wi-Fi. You can get a VPN. So IP bans are almost useless. Like they're good in theory, but bad in practice a lot of times. Also because it's like if you get this one IP address, but sometimes it's like a school, so you wind up nuking an entire school off of your website. So it's like it's a lot of issues. But I thought that they had a way of locking down the app on a specific device, because I thought that's what they did to somebody who kept coming back on multiple accounts. So like they somehow know that this particular device is linked to the app, and that's how they
we
tell
have
their-
seen them ban people on the level of the device.
So why don't they do that more? That would be great.
Well, for one thing, it's against EU regulations.
And that's like the other, like, oh, it's too much for this conversation, but it's like, again, there needs to also be some sort of actionable something invented somewhere, so that, okay, by the way, maybe this person is a normal human being, citizen person, face to face, but when they hop online, they're an absolute fucking nightmare. I don't care what it is. It needs to be something. They need to not be online somehow, or get therapy to understand that once you're online, it doesn't mean you're in this like fantasy world where you could do this like crap to everybody all the time. Like, could you
Actually,
just act the same way you do in person as you do online? Because
the interesting thing about that is there has been recent research on people who are dicks online, and yeah, they're dicks in real life too. They're just assholes.
Yes.
They're just this isn't like a Guns Akimbo situation. Which, like, if you haven't seen that movie, it's fucking wild. Daniel Radcliffe. Anyway, it just, what you're suggesting sounds so much like those driver re-education classes.
Yes.
Like, if you're a dick,
That's exactly what I mean.
You have to take a class to learn how to be a decent human being.
Yes. Exactly. Like if you get caught graffiti, like you have to go do like 20 hours of community service to pick up the graffiti. Like we need something like that, but for like they're awful online. Like, could you just fucking not? Like, it's 2022. How do you not know how to conduct yourself online? This isn't like you want to go be like be your shittiest version of you ever. You have to go to the space with other people who are like, yes, let's be the shittiest version of ourselves ever over here, and not just to some random person on the internet.
If you want to be a shitty person, go play Minecraft.
Shut up! I have been doing that. Like, when I am not here and I am not working, I am playing Minecraft.
What is it? What's the other one? Go play Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite or oh god.
I don't play first-person shooters, so
Me neither. That's why I can't remember this one, because there's a different one with a 3-letter acronym that I know there's tons of. Anyway, so how about that subject change?
You want me to pull up another article?
Yeah, let's see if we can hit one more before we have to go, because this conversation was beautiful. And
I'm a bit
almost
curious.
took us up to the end.
I'm a bit curious about this one. Man sentenced to 6 years in prison for pretending to be a DHS agent on TikTok.
Yes, I am ready. That like ties in almost perfectly to what we were just discussing.
what?
Okay.
A man has been sentenced to 6 years in prison. There's so many fucking ads on this page. What the fuck?
No.
A man has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for pretending to be a Department of Homeland Security (DHS) agent on TikTok. The DOJ has said that Rael Simmons from Minnesota has been found guilty of impersonating a
Federal officer.
That's why there's so many ads, because you're being blocked.
I don't think the ads go away when you pay for a subscription.
Oh, I don't want that. That's stupid. I just. What in the world would someone be pretending to be?
A lot of people do it. So many people, like, they just, again, this is one of those weird things that people do. They hop online and they decide that they can just cosplay another person and just live a fantasy life online. And like, it's okay. And nobody's going to figure it out, because how would anybody know? But people know.
So Yahoo News has ripped that article verbatim from The Independent, and at the paywall, they just have the text "more follows."
Journalism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't.
All right, looks like I got more of the article here. A man in Minnesota was convicted of impersonating Bell. We already covered that. Federal authorities say the 53-year-old Rael Devin Simmons created a TikTok profile last year using the fake identity Ray Reeves. In videos on the account, he often identified himself as a federal agent and pretended to work for the DHS, according to the Department of Justice. He had more than 10,000 followers on the platform when he was charged, according to a DOJ statement. Simmons made, quote, several posts that featured him wearing law enforcement gear and showed off badges and firearms, according to the DOJ. Along with impersonating a federal officer, Simmons was also convicted of illegally possessing firearms due to a previous felony conviction in Colorado. According to the September 2021 complaint charging Simmons, his TikTok profile showed him wearing what appeared to be law enforcement gear, including a radio, a badge, and an assault rifle. The FBI investigated Simmons after it received a tip about his TikTok profile. According to TikTok's community guidelines, impersonating another person is against the platform's policy and can result in account termination. TikTok did not immediately return insiders' request for comment on Monday. Simmons has never been a law enforcement agent, according to the DHS. The person who reported Simmons to the FBI was a woman who met him on TikTok in February of last year and started a romantic relationship with him, according to the September 2021 complaint. The two met in person on several occasions, traveling between Georgia, where she lived, and Minnesota. They stayed in hotels in Minnesota, and Simmons claimed the DHS was picking up the tab, the woman told authorities. Simmons told the witness, identified only as BA in the complaint, that he was working on an undercover assignment, the complaint said. Yeah, undercover assignment, while also publicly an agent on TikTok. BA told federal authorities that Simmons regularly wore law enforcement attire and carried around a Homeland Security backpack that he called his go bag, according to the complaint. Simmons used a radio that she believed he was using to talk to other federal agents, she told authorities. On one occasion, she said she saw a long-barreled rifle in his Ford truck. He told the woman he previously was a Navy SEAL and showed her a photograph of him in what appeared to be military gear. The woman became suspicious of Simmons when she saw a comment on Simmons' TikTok saying that he was impersonating an officer. Simmons set his TikTok account to private after he saw the comment, but BA contacted the person who provided proof of Simmons' true identity and his previous conviction in Colorado. BA then conducted her own research online before contacting authorities, according to the complaint. She did not inform Simmons that she had reported him, according to the complaint, and continued to speak with him. She told officers he continued to post to TikTok pretending to be a law enforcement officer, the complaint said. Simmons pleaded guilty to 2 charges in January as part of a plea deal. A public defender who represented him in the case did not return insiders' request for comment on Monday. After serving his prison sentence, Simmons will be under supervised release for 3 years, according to the plea deal.
Listen, if you're gonna lie, at least try to be a good liar.
I have seen this episode of Law and Order. When life imitates art, imitates life, it's a circle.
It amazes me how far people will go to not be themselves.
Yes.
Like, and I say this as a person who like constantly talks about like not wanting to be corporeal because being myself sucks. But like,
yes,
I'm not out here pretending that I work for the fucking DOJ or the fucking desk. Like, what nonsense.
Right, like when I want to like really truly get out of my head and be somebody else, I role play Dungeons and Dragons, like, you know, Magic the Gathering, like all these other nerdy things.
There are healthy outlets.
Cosplay, like that's fine, and I understand the difference between the two. Like these are parallel things; they do not intersect. And then these folks here are like, you know what? What if these parallel things just intersected? Let's go. And
I don't know, man. Sometimes I think it was just so interesting to be able to see inside a person like that's brain and just try to understand what is the impetus for this? What is the, like, you know, is it a power trip? Is it you're getting something over on someone and it's giving you, you know, a serotonin boost? Like, what is it? Because somewhere the wires are doing something funky and I would like to know what that funky thing is. But it is 9:00.
That is true.
If you enjoy listening to us talk about platform-related things and also hypothetical tin hat platform-related things, you can support us on Patreon, where we have many tiers with which you can support us. And actually, most of that money just goes towards like creating resources and help for the general community at large. So, yeah.
Thanks everybody so much for coming. Have a great night.